There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Oh, what's up and welcome into episode number 146 of the Program Guys Podcast. My name is Mason Prince. Joined with you as always by Patrick Kurtzberger, Matt Gann, Mark Hall, and O'Brien Tyson today. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. Be sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Find us on all of our social media at Program Guys with a Z on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. Okay. I already said that. I said it again. But boys, we're back. We had a Sunday twofer for the people. We recorded the post-game pod, and Seth Littrell had not been fired. Then we posted it, and then Seth Littrell got fired at around 6 p.m.
Like 20 minutes after our post.
Yeah, not long
Very
at all.
quick after.
Yeah. So then we had an instant reaction go up for you as well. Check that out if you would like to. So now we are sitting here, and we know now that Joe Jon Finley is the new OC, play caller, and Jay Johns, is that right? No,
Kevin Johns.
Kevin Johns, sorry.
Former Duke offensive coordinator, is going to move into a more formal co-OC quarterback coach role.
Okay. And Brent had his press conference on Tuesday. He called the offense an abomination. So that's what you love to hear. Glad he knows. Glad he's aware. God, remember when Lincoln Riley used to tell us how close we were?
Yeah.
All the time? And he'd just say we're really close.
One play away.
And now, Brent is able to call the offense an abomination. I think I feel better about that. I'm glad Brent noticed and made the change. I can't imagine it was easy. It's hard, but it had to be done. Matt, you weren't on the instant reaction, I don't believe. Your thoughts?
Had to happen, but then it just made it worse by making Joe Jon Finley the offensive coordinator when he's never called plays going against a pretty good opponent who we're going to talk to at Ole Miss. So went from okay to, I think, feeling absolutely worse after the news.
Joe Jon Finley continues to fail upward. It's quite impressive, honestly. Pretty impressive.
Because even Brent Venables today in his press conference said how we're not putting the tight ends in the right positions. And I'm like, were you not part of the game planning when they were planning those plays? The first and second and third, basically, plays of our offense, they all entailed some tight end action and need for blocking. And then you go complain about that? I guess he's just not in the planning. That's what I took from it, honestly.
Yeah.
Everything else, though, I liked what he said today.
I actually found it to be sort of a sucker move to attack the offense the day after you send Seth Littrell packing. Where you been all season, Brent? You wait until he's out the door and then tell us it's an abomination?
That's a good point.
That's weird. If my boss did that the day after I was fired, I don't think I'd be stoked. Mason, if you were fired and someone said that the next day, I don't think you'd be stoked. That's it. Rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, actually. I'm a little surprised to hear us enjoying it.
That's fair enough. I get what you're saying. The sucker move part, I guess, makes the most sense to me, but it makes me feel better to at least know that he cared enough and he knows how bad it was. It'd be worse, in my opinion, if Seth Littrell still had a job and he just shut up and dealt with it.
The firing was right, but the way you approached it today, I didn't love is all.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the honesty. Maybe he was a little too direct there, but
could have been saying that stuff in a way where Seth Littrell can address it, man.
Sure.
Maybe to Brent's credit and defense, possibly we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Maybe Brent, knowing for as passionate as he is, find it hard to believe that this sort of messaging wasn't conveyed at any point to the offensive staff, mainly directed at Joe Jon and Seth. But yeah, I get it. You don't like to hear it. in public after the fact, yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. But in my mind, I doubt it's the first time he said that. Probably just the first time that we've heard it.
Yep. I think that's probably right. Just timing is weird there. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, timing's very weird. He said all the right things he needed to, but a little bit too late for me at this point. You could have said this probably 3 weeks after, instead of 6 weeks and after firing your offensive coordinator. To your point, Mark.
Yeah. Brent had some interesting stuff to say today as well on the injury front. Andrel Anthony is close. And Jaleel Farouk continues to get better. Jaden Gibson progressing to be able to play next year. So obviously don't expect Jaden at all this year. And I feel like we learned something new today about Nick Anderson, and it was a torn quad.
Yeah.
That seems odd.
Torn quad that he was day-to-day for going into week one.
That re-injury against Tennessee must have really made it worse. It seems it's odd.
Man,
but it made me feel better that at least he said Nick wants to come back. I think he said that about most all the receivers except for
that about all 5 of them, I think.
I don't think he mentioned
a Stoya tweet I saw earlier. Let me check it to be sure. But who do you think he didn't mention?
I thought he did mention Dion. I thought he did mention Dion.
Might be right.
He mentioned Dion is day to day from an injury perspective. Okay. I'm not sure if he mentioned him in the quote of coming back. I also am unfamiliar with his eligibility due to him already being a transfer. I don't know how old he is.
I don't know how. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's our update on the receiver front. Your weekly 5 receiver update, starting 5 receiver update.
Y'all are right. It's 4. Y'all are right. It's 4. Dion apparently. Well, who the hell are they talking about? Anthony, Farouk, Dion, and Anderson. I guess we're sort of counting Gibson as we're not worried about it, right?
Yeah, I don't think he was ever a threat to even sniff the field this year. I don't think
he's not.
But good to see he's progressing in the right way. So what does that mean for Ole Miss? I mean, you're gonna Deion Burks maybe. I don't know. The first injury report will drop on Wednesday, I believe, after this podcast drops. So we won't know for certain yet. I expect Deion Burks to be questionable. I'd be shocked if it was anything different than that. You guys, anything?
Those guys aren't playing until I see them on the field. That's where I've landed with it. I just don't trust it at this point in the game. It would be great. It would be very helpful to have some go-to guys, because Brent confirmed today also that Jackson Arnold will be starting at quarterback. And he's got at least a little bit of rapport with Andrel, a little bit of a rapport with Deion Burks from weeks of practice. So fingers crossed, but who knows?
We talked about it in the post game. Gavin Sawchuk didn't play. That was because he has a strained quad. That's why he did not play on Saturday. Don't yet know his status for Ole Miss. We will see, but expect it once again to be the Javonte Barnes, Taylor Tatum show. That's definitely what it's going to be. He said the tight end room was not doing well, not doing great, not in terms of injury, just they haven't performed as well. And it had a lot to do with game planning and putting those guys in the right position. I don't care whatever game plan you come up with. I just don't want to see Bauer sharp on the field.
Well, and you say that, but then in the same breath, you promote Joe Jon Finley.
Yeah.
Whose title, he only has it. He's only an OC because Jeff Levy wanted to take him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's just next up on the totem pole in this weird way. And do you guys see Lane Kiffin's quote?
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. I think one of y'all sent it, Pat. It's something along the lines of, it's not like Joe Jon was a coordinator here. He was a tight ends coach. He's never called plays, and so there's not really anything to go back and watch. Like that's a condensed version of it. I listened to the whole thing, but that's basically what Lane Kiffin said, because he's asked a question about preparing for an interim OC in his first week, and Lane's like, "What do you mean? There's
Mhm.
nothing to prepare for. He has nothing on tape,
Yeah.
and he's the one who needs to be preparing.
Mhm.
Also, it was mentioned that Kevin Johns was not, or Brent essentially said that because Kevin Johns was doing more scouting and whatnot during the offseason, that he was not in line to be the OC, which I feel, I still think that's the wrong decision. I would have gone with Kevin Johns over Joe Jon Finley, even if it is a more of a risk. I think the fans would have been okay with that as well. Joe Jon doesn't make
Let,
sense.
let Joe Jon focus on his room that he needs to
Yeah.
coach the hell up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let Joe Jon focus on his room and let the dude who has play calling experience do that. Um, I don't know. I guess I can only be happy that the bad man's gone, and that's it. But I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about the matchup with Ole Miss at all.
Mm-mm.
I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna trot out there. Genuinely, no idea at all. Um, Anything else on the team news front that I'm missing that we should touch on? Brent talked about the recruits and recruiting. There's also I didn't get to read the article, but if you have Sooner Scoop, Josh McCuistion put something up. He talked to a lot of OU commits and or recruits about what is going on with the offensive woes right now. But from Brent's perspective, he seems to be quite confident in where they're at with the recruits. He doesn't seem to feel as though the faith has wavered. I think he said something along the lines of, "I want guys to commit to OU and not commit to, you know, a position coach, I guess, or any sort of coach. Like commit to the University of Oklahoma and commit to my vision for the University of Oklahoma. That's what you should be committing to." And I get that. I understand that. But also in today's day and age of college football, everything that I see is position coaches play a very large role, and I think we know that in recruiting and getting guys on board. That matters a ton. So yeah, again, we'd love to live in the Brent Venables, a commitment is a commitment is a commitment world, but that's not where we live.
Yeah.
It's not.
Brent needs to get real.
Yeah.
Brent needs to get real. Like that's fun coach speak. It is. It's great. You haven't won anything yet, and that's not like you do have to value what those coaches are bringing to the table, and that's a weird message to send the next batch of position coaches, I think.
Agreed.
I kind of have a weird vibe about Brent today.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
he's
feeling
lost.
it, baby. I like it. He's
I
a
think
little
he's
lost.
lost.
He's definitely
He's
lost.
a little lost. He seems a little flailing to me.
Yeah.
And sick. He said he said he felt sick about it. So like, yeah. So maybe he's not picking himself up.
Matt, anything to add on this front before we move on?
I just think BV's an emotional guy. He's probably taking it to heart that he had to release Seth Littrell. Thinks everyone like a family. It was probably a very tough decision for him. Ultimately, he had to do what's best for the program. We'll see how he handles these things moving forward because he's got a lot of big offseason decisions to make, and it's only going to become more emotional from there.
Let us know down below in the comments what you thought of Brent Venables' press conference today, what he had to say, his thoughts on everything as well. We read every single one of your comments. All right, folks. I guess let's talk about the Ole Miss game. Mark, you have the spread in front of you by chance? I don't. Anybody have the spread in front of them? Sorry.
It's I think it's still 20 and
20.
a half. I can get it up
Yeah.
real fast.
Is
You're
Ole
saying
Miss up
20
to
now?
Is Ole Miss up to 6? Is that what they are?
18 in the nation.
Oh,
Right.
18?
Yeah.
Samsonite. I was way off.
Yeah, they lost to number 8 LSU, so they're
Yeah.
18.
Yeah, that makes sense. Little live potting for the people.
Yeah, 20 and a
Gotta
half.
love it.
20 and a half. It opened at 18. I've also saw it open at 18 and a half in some places, but they've all sort of stabilized right at just under 3 touchdowns. And that's got to be a sickening feeling for Oklahoma. I haven't done the research, but it must be one of the largest spreads we've seen
Mm-hmm.
in an Oklahoma game in some time.
It's been a long time since it's been like this, and it's not not ideal. ESPN gives Ole Miss an 88% chance to win. Super fun.
It's kind of
Love
low.
that. Love
Ole
that
Miss
for
gave
us.
us or ESPN gave us like a 67%
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
I can't trust FPI at all.
No. Um, but Jackson Dart, their quarterback, he's balling the hell out. He's 2,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's playing very, very well in Lane Kiffin's system. We'll start with the OU defense against Ole Miss offense just because I feel like that's the main matchup because we don't know what we're going to get out of OU's offense. But you have Harris, 987 yards, 6 touchdowns, their leading receiver. Parrish Jr., their leading running back, 612 yards, 9 touchdowns. They're a prolific offense. They are good offense under Lane Kiffin. That's not a surprise to anybody. We know to expect that. What do you guys see out of this Ole Miss team?
Don't know if you guys remember. We were in between getting Jackson Dart and Dylan Gabriel 3 years ago, both
Two.
now absolutely thriving. That hurts a little bit. I think the defense is going to show us the same thing they showed us last week. They give them good field position, they'll get the offense back on the field. Give them bad field position, points may get put on the board. I hope and pray that they can have the same intensity that they had last week after that loss and having really no faith in the offense.
I think the defense is going to hold the line, man. They're going to do everything they can do like we've seen them do in every single game. They were worn down by the end of the Texas game. I give you that. And you give up some plays when that happens. That totally, for sure. But they don't make very many mistakes. Corners do. Sometimes you'll get a safety lost in coverage, but down to down, you'd rather have this defense than most any other defense in the country. And I expect them to play like that this week too. I expect them to hold an offense that is scoring tons and tons of points. Well, not really, but
41 points
touchdowns,
a
four
game.
touchdowns. Yeah. Georgia Southern is bringing that up with a 52-point game, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at their last five and 29, 27, 20, 52, 40. So more than Oklahoma for sure. But I think Oklahoma is going to hold them beneath what you might expect. It's just on the other side of the ball, can anything happen? Can anything happen at all?
Henry Parrish, Trey Harris, those are their playmakers on offense. Trey Harris has double the amount of receptions and yards as any other receiver on the team. The offense goes as he goes. It's obviously Jackson Dart's favorite target, and Henry Parrish, he is by far the leading rusher, double the amount of carries of anybody. He's the featured back as well. So those guys are the guys you're going to have to try to contain. We'll see if we can do it. I'm curious to see if they're going to trot out the young guys at corner again, like we saw last week. That'll be kind of interesting to see. I don't really know the answer yet.
One more thing is that Jeff Lebby is a Lane Kiffin disciple in as much as he's anyone's disciple, coming from Ole Miss before we hired him. That's the kind of offense to expect here. So this is the sort of game where you'll see probably full-on platoon changes at different times, getting a new D-line in, getting new linebackers into the game, switching your corners out, your safeties out here and there. This is where the depth comes into play. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that, because those guys are just going to go right down the field if they catch us out of alignment or if they just wear us out too much and we can't get a sub in.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, Ole Miss definitely disappointing versus their first three SEC opponents. Obviously, losing their first SEC game to Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats, 20-17. Obviously, bouncing back and beating South Carolina, who just put a whooping on us, 27-3, and then they lost in LSU in overtime, 29-26. So have a really good football team, even though they're currently 1-2, but their offense is explosive. It starts with those two guys that you mentioned. Can we slow down the running game? Because Parrish is getting about 6 yards a clip, if we can't stop the run defense, their wide receivers are going to run all over our secondary. So you saw last week as well, we created a ton of pressure on South Carolina's quarterback and Sellers, created a lot of disruptions. The defense is going to have to bring it, give OU's offense a shorter field, but that's a lot of talent to cover just in those two backs alone. And Jackson Dart's completing over 70% of his passes. So whether he's getting it out quick or throwing it down the field, this offense has got a lot of weapons and talent that we're going to have to be able to cover. And I think it's just going to be very similar to the Texas game. I think that first quarter and a half, the defense is going to come out strong, but they're just going to get worn down by being on the field too much. And this offense of Ole Miss just won't be able to be contained for more than two quarters.
I think the key, and this is kind of an offense key for the defense, stop giving them short fields. If you're going to score, make them go the distance.
Yeah.
Make them go 75 yards to score a touchdown. That I kept saying to Mark during the game against South Carolina, it was bend don't break like the whole time. And they would give up a couple first downs and then South Carolina would get to around the 50 and they'd stall out because our guys on defense kind of stiffened up. That they can do that. That's the kind of defense they can play, the bend don't break kind. If you make Ole Miss have to march every drive, that is your best shot at being in the game. So play the field position game if you're on offense. And I'm switching over to the offense, but don't be afraid to punt the ball. Don't be afraid if you get to, the 50-yard line and you're in a 4th and 4 or 4th and 5. Shit, punt the ball. Play the field position game. You have Tyler Keltner. He's doing great.
Luke Elzinga.
Luke Elzinga. I knew I said that wrong.
Well,
Luke Elzinga, yes.
And on top of it, those are situations where normally I'm someone who loves to be aggressive and go for it. We don't have an offense that has shown us anything in that direction, anything capable of doing that. And it's sort of similar to the fake punt we saw last week. You're just not helping your best unit at all when you put them in situations like that. The only times that South Carolina. The only times that South Carolina scored, they opened the series on our side of the field, or it was just picked up and returned.
Matt, anything to add on that?
No, I said it last week in the recap of the game that South Carolina only scored an offensive possession one time when they were starting in their own half, and that was a field goal that they got. So if OU doesn't give them short fields and spots them 21 points in the first quarter, could have been a completely different game, but you're just not going to be able to do this at Ole Miss with a more of a higher power offense that Ole Miss has at their disposal.
Defensive touchdown would be really nice. It'd be really nice.
We don't win with that one. That's for sure.
Don't know if we do either. Let us know down below in the comments what you think about the OU defense against the Ole Miss offense, that matchup. All right, moving over to the offensive side of the ball. Somehow, some way, Kentucky has a lower offensive ranking than Oklahoma, or efficiency rating, or
passing efficiency.
Passing efficiency. There you go.
That's what it is.
Which, like, how? I had no idea how that's possible.
It's actually impressive.
Yeah,
it gives me a little bit of hope because Kentucky scored 20 points against these guys.
Sure. I don't know, man. Maybe there's some Joe Jon magic. Maybe because you can't game plan for him and he's never called plays. Who the hell knows what's going on in that guy's head?
He's just playing NCAA right now.
Yeah,
it's the same offense, I'm sure, but he's just going to do like more Bauer Sharp stuff.
Dude, that's what I was about to say.
Former quarterback Bauer Sharp, don't forget it.
I already know he's going to draw up so much stuff for Bauer Sharp, and I'm already mad about it. I'm already mad. Like, I just put Jake Roberts on the field and put Caden Helms on the field and just do that. Just do that. I don't know what Bauer Sharp gives you. I don't know. What'd you say, Mark?
Mitchell.
Just I liked seeing Caden Helms on the field a lot. He's larger than all of the other guys, just physically bigger. And I know that the injuries have zapped him of any kind of burst and speed that he once had, but he can be Austin Stogner for us. And that's a major upgrade over what we're seeing right now out of Bauer Sharp. And frankly, the room as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to need to run the ball effectively. I don't know how you're going to do that with the offensive line you have. Like who you gonna? What's the combination even going to be? Like, is Jake Taylor going to be in there? I don't know.
He has to be, because otherwise it's Spencer Brown.
Yeah.
And we saw that last week. We had to go. We had to do the Jake Taylor sandwich.
Yeah.
Where he started and closed it, but they benched him in the middle.
You got to run the ball, and you got to run it with effectiveness. And I don't really know the answer to that. I don't think the answer is running up the middle in between the guards with Javonte Barnes. I don't think that's the answer. I think you're going to have to try to get in some space a little bit with some outside zone, maybe pulling some guards to kind of overload one side of the field. That's my only recipe for success, I guess, in the run game, because I don't think you're going to be able to just run between the tackles, no problem, everybody block who's in front of you. I just don't think that's going to work.
I think we saw clearly this past week that it's going to be Taylor Tatum. Not Taylor Tatum, it's going to be Javonte Barnes getting the mother load back there, and then we'll see some designer plays for Taylor Tatum. That's what it feels like to me. I think it's a good decision. He runs with his eyes closed, but he runs hard, and he's the only one who can get yards in a bunch of people. No, we just don't have another guy that does that. Caleb Hicks looked good in his 2 carries last week. I'd love to see him get a little bit more run, but I'm not sure that that's something that they really want to do.
Matt?
Ole Miss has a pretty good rush defense, so unfortunately don't see OU's ground game getting anything going, especially what we've been able to produce over the last few weeks. So it's going to be really tough to run against that defense. Their top 3 tacklers are their linebacking core that they have. Chris Paul Jr., no relation to Chris Paul, DJ Jottery, and something Perkins. Not going to even try to pronounce his name. But these guys are on the field all the time, and they blitz quite often. They account for over 6.5 sacks out of their 24. So they're going to be bringing their linebackers all day long, especially at what you've seen over the past few weeks, especially that left side of our offensive line is very weak. I'm sure Lane Kiffin and the defensive coordinators are going to draw some stuff up to exploit that side. And we haven't even talked about it, but Jackson Arnold obviously being named the starter over Mike Hawkins for this game. Can they give him enough time, or what does Joe Jon Finley draw up to get the ball out of his hands? And really just at the end of the day, I just want to see a very, very bare to the bones, simplified offense. We don't need to make it complicated. Going against a really tough defense, just give Jackson Arnold some opportunity to get the ball out of his hands and get into our playmakers. We'll see if that's the case, what kind of game plan they're going to draw up. But this is going to be a tough opponent that we're going to be facing, especially that linebacker core.
I think that's a great point, Matt. Don't try to trick Ole Miss. Don't try to trick them. Just run the simple things well. Do a Jackson Arnold 3-step drop and he's got to throw a slant. Or Jackson Arnold 3-step drop, he's throwing it out. Or Jackson Arnold 5-step drop and he's throwing a corner route. Get those timing throws down, because we all know, and the entire SEC knows, you can't block anybody worth a piss. So don't make your line block that long. Drop back quick, 1, 2, 3, throw. Or 1, 2, throw the swing. Do something with the timing to help your offensive line hold up a little bit. That's my advice, Patrick.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, accuracy's got to be better on Jackson's side when he does throw those slants. We had the same issues last week where we saw him throwing behind or, a little bit behind his receivers. Really hoping he gets that down. From the start of the Arizona Bowl game, when Jackson Arnold started, their run game was what got him going. We haven't been able to get the run game going all season, and when it doesn't work, we stop the run game and we try to throw the ball, and that doesn't work either. I want us to consistently continue to get the run game going, even when it fails. Go 3 and out with the run game going multiple times. I don't care. They need to respect the run in order for Jackson to get anything going. And That's why we just need to run the damn ball.
Tough to do because
Very.
LSU only ran 84 and the game before was 94. So they're holding opponents under 100 yards rushing, like a few yards per clip from what I saw. It's going to be very tough to do to start a run game, but maybe that's what they do. Maybe that's what they have to go out there and do. Just try to run as much as they can, inside, outside, whatever they can do. I just don't see that happening. I see it's going to be another tumultuous day for the offense, unfortunately.
Yeah. Another point on the offense is it can't get worse.
Yes, it
It
can.
can't get worse. I don't think it can. We scored 3 points last week. It can get a little bit worse potentially. But what I'm saying is I don't think it's a risk if freshmen play more, especially on the offensive line.
I feel like you're
It's
playing with
not a
house
risk.
money at this point. What is there to lose? The season,
And they're already picking and choosing the freshmen that they're playing. Hawkins is playing, Raggins is playing, Kearney is playing.
I feel like it's
Ivan was on there. Yeah.
I feel like it's a bullshit Bill Bedenbaugh sort of like power move.
What are we doing?
To be like, oh, we're not playing freshmen. Like, no, that's just what we do. Like, I feel like that's what it's got to be, and that's got to stop. Because if you're going to play freshmen everywhere else on the field besides the offensive line, then what are we doing? Well, I don't know what you're doing.
Or they're not ready. But we don't hear them say they're not ready.
Right.
No, we don't.
We never hear that. We're fine laying into the offense as a whole. But when someone has a question about why certain players might not be hitting the field, we don't get to hear, oh, well, Eddie's looking great in practice, but we really just don't think he's ready to get those reps in real-time action yet. You know what? I'm satisfied. The answer was given. And if that's it, if they truly believe he's still worse than what we're seeing out there, cool. But I need to understand the reasoning because it's getting a little embarrassing. 9 sacks last week. And I promise you, Eugene Brooks is pretty hard to get 9 sacks on. That dude's 338 pounds.
Yeah.
And there are videos of like EPL guarding David Stone in the summer.
Yeah.
Successfully.
And David's getting snaps. Jaden David's getting snaps. Eli Bowen's getting snaps, you know?
Yeah. I just don't get it. Let us know down below in the comments your thoughts on the offensive matchup between OU's offense and Ole Miss's defense. We read every single one of your comments as well. Anything else on the offense before we move on, guys? It's got to be more Jacob Jordan.
I guess so.
I feel like
right.
I feel like that's a no-brainer to me. But yeah, so. Jacob Jordan. Jacob Jordan has to be starting. I don't think. By the way, technical difficulties. We're back. If you're listening or watching and it messed up, he's got to be starting. There's no reason for him not to be. No reason at all. You can't tell me he's not one of the 4 best receivers on the active roster right now. There's no way.
Which is just disappointing when you know that there are 4-star, 5-star freshmen.
Yeah. And Jaquez Petaway, a sophomore.
Yeah.
Who, if you listen to the unofficial 40 guys, doesn't know the plays. How's that possible? How's he not know the plays and preferred walk-on Jacob Jordan knows all the plays and is actually out there like he wants to be out there?
Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's tough. Jacob Jordan, wide receiver 1, apparently.
I think it's going to be Jacob Jordan, JJ Hester. Let's just for the sake of argument, Deion Burks doesn't play. Jacob Jordan, JJ Hester, Zion Reagans, and
Brennan Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah. I that order wasn't 100%. I'd mention Brennan Thompson and Jacob Jordan. Those are your 2. Keep them on the field. Like those are the guys.
JJ, and then watch out for the big dog, Zion Kearney. That's my favorite, my preferred Zion right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've seen enough out of Zion Reagans to know that he doesn't really give you anything. I just think he's not ready. I don't think he's physically ready to do it. And it's no fault of his own. The kid's 18 years old. Like, you'll have time, but I don't think that's the thing you need to do right now, especially when you're trying to figure something out offensively. Matt, anything to add on that?
Throw it deep. We saw what Jackson Arnold's ability. Hey, on the touchdown pass was a beauty. Most of the time, he's sailed it out of bounds, or even Mike Hawkins, and it was a beautiful throw to Brendan Thompson. That's what you wanted to see. We saw that in Arizona, and we saw a little glimpse of it. Again, we're playing with house money at this point. Throw the kitchen sink out there. Again, simplify it, but throw it deep. Guys, stretch the defense. Can't have them 12 yards all 12 players on the 5 yards from the scrimmage. It's just impossible to run an offense. Stretch it deep.
Mark, wasn't that other really long pass he had that was incomplete that we both said was really good? Was that to JJ Hester?
Yeah, it was. Was that the one where he was getting pulled from his? No, that was a different one. I actually thought he made an all right throw, but it was short on that one. Yeah, there was another deep pass, I think, to JJ. I said that in the post game, and I still think it's right, where it doesn't happen, but it's the kind of throw that, again, Jackson can make it. Michael doesn't often make it. Michael's gifts are elsewhere right now.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's it for the offensive breakdown. We'll go ahead and do score predictions, unfortunately. Okay, Matt, we'll start with you.
Oh, man, I've been dreading this all day long. You said it's 20.5?
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to go Ole Miss. Going to put a whooping on us. I'm going to say 40-10. Ole Miss.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, hey, until you can prove me differently and score more points and the defense is not out there the entire game, at Ole Miss. Matt, if we gave up 30-plus points, I know we gave up 2 defensive touchdowns, but this Ole Miss offense is twice as better as South Carolina. So 40 points is probably pretty feasible. 40-10.
27-13, Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss winning by 2 scores. OU covers for those who care.
Not a chance.
That's what I picked. Okay, go ahead, Patrick.
Ole Miss was the portal king of the offseason. And I think that they're only getting better and better. That was proven by the tight game in Baton Rouge last week. I think Ole Miss is better than what they've been putting on. Give me 38-13 Ole Miss.
You stop copying me, bro. Me and you both have the same scores like every week.
All right, go ahead, Mark.
Copying me.
Yeah, I said once upon a time, like last week, that I would never
against. I was just thinking that.
Take it back.
And I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. I have to. So I think we lose 27-17. I think we get a Zach Schmidt kick. Probably one of 2 on those, and you find a way to score 2. So whether that's 2 on offense, 1 on offense with a defensive or special teams contribution somewhere, but you scrounge together a way to stay in the game, and Ole Miss is just better.
Yep. And then
one quick note: Jackson Arnold's first away SEC start. Because Hawkins started.
It's actually
against Auburn.
Great point.
Yep.
So
never played away.
Never played away in the SEC.
Yeah, and if you guys just saw RT messages in the group chat, his final score is 35-6. Ole Miss with a butt whooping. So I guess he's right in the same camp as me and Patrick. High score for Ole Miss, low score for OU. He says OU couldn't score if it was right in front of him. So, hey, words of
Sounds
RT.
Like Ryan.
Quite the optimist. 35-6, 2 field goals.
Don't forget the second part of that text where he says, "Don't forget to talk about Brianna Chicken Fry and Zach Bryan."
Yeah.
LVP.
Right. That's right. Let us know down below in the comments your score prediction for the game. Time to wrap up the show with our PGP MVPs of the week. I will start. My MVP is that Becca.
Clearly a hand.
Yeah, clearly a hand. My PGP MVP of the week is really an LVP, and that is Matthew McConaughey and the rest of the Texas Longhorn fan base. Because what scumbags throwing all that beer on the field at their home stadium. They get a call against them. They throw beer on the field, get play stopped so they can clean up the field. While they're cleaning up the field, those spineless, cowardly refs turn the call over and give Texas the ball back. Just goes to show, folks, if you throw beer on the field, that you too can get your call changed in favor of your team. That's all you got to do now. The SEC refs have showed us that. But that's just scummy. And Matthew McConaughey tweeting out the weird, like, oh, I'm Matthew McConaughey, be cool, guys. That was cringy. I'm not about that. That was weird as hell. Not for
I
that.
could never, ever imagine Oklahoma's fan base treating our football field that way. It is like the most classless, entitled, whiny University of Texas, pompous, love the smell of their own fart bullshit that we have seen for every year that we've been alive. Because they think they put the moon in the sky, man. It is. And they think that they should just get away with stuff like that. It is nuts. That's unreal. People don't act that way. And Texas fans acted that way. That's their own field. That's shameful.
Gross. Okay, Pat, who's your MVP?
I'm going no MVP. I don't think the Oklahoma football program deserves one right now.
We're not even talking. If we're talking about the podcast,
just in general, you could just have an MVP.
Not gonna have one.
Okay, Champions League is starting. You want to talk about that?
Out.
Or start it back up? They had games today and tomorrow. No, don't care. All right.
Guys,
I'm gonna go. We're down.
I'll go
deep.
next.
Yeah,
I'll go next. I'm gonna go MVP to Barry Switzer, who was today named one of the 2024 class of SEC class of 2024 SEC legends. As you know, from all of his victories and conference titles and championships that he won while representing the Southeastern Conference, I think that truly it's an honor we should be proud of. He really did it for the SEC. And as members of the SEC, we should be incredibly supportive and celebrate these efforts. My MVP, Barry Switzer. I cannot believe he didn't
the king
for that.
The king. The king.
The king.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, something very similar. Another award to another OU coach, OU men's head golf coach, Ryan Hybl, got the call today that he is indicted to the Golf Coaches Association of America Hall of Fame class 2024. There it goes. My MVP.
Hell yeah. Nothing else to add. I love that. Hell yeah, man.
That's all you need. We need some good OU news, and that was about all I could find.
Okay, NBA season.
We're in the running for that WNBA player, or the women's basketball player. I think number one in the country.
She was. I think she came on a visit last weekend.
Recently,
weekend?
Yeah, very recently.
Hey, Coach Jenny, she knows what to do.
Sounds like we need to circle those wagons at some point.
We're gonna have to do it soon.
Yeah,
Can we just do that instead of football next week?
Yeah, might have to.
Classic.
That's gonna do it. Be sure to like, subscribe on our YouTube channel, follow us on all of our social media at Program Guys with a Z on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you can find us. We will see you this weekend for the post-game pod as we recap Ole Miss and OU from Oxford, Mississippi. That's going to do it. Pat, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.